Chapter 1. Lu Yin. Noxious fumes billowed out from the countless cracks that marred the beaten earth, forming a black veil that obscured the red sunset. Tens of thousands of fearful faces trudged forward on a muddy path, their constant sobs accented by the echoing screams of those who fell into the cracks. This river of despair was nominally guarded by a group of cultivators, once normal people who had now become unimaginably powerful beings half a year after the apocalypse struck Earth. They were positioned along the path, each a set distance from the previous, and each responsible for their own section. Near the back of this large group, Lu Yin suddenly looked up towards a large, burning tree in the distance. A hair-raising sound of flesh being ground apart filled the air before being quickly followed by a loud howl. Then, just moments later, a 2-meter-long hound with scarlet pupils charged at the group. Many panicked and screamed at the grisly sight of its large jaws dripping with fresh blood, but Lu Yin's will remained unflustered as he grabbed an odd weapon hanging from his waist. It seemed to be just a metal rod, but were it sharpened enough, it could eventually become a blade. He jumped forward and smashed the beast's head wide open with a single heavy swing, dyeing the nearby grass red with blood. Only after the group witnessed the wild hound's death did they regain a modicum of calm and quell their fears enough to resume walking. "Seems it won't last much longer," Lu Yin muttered under his breath as he gazed at the cracks that covered his weapon. The last traces of daylight soon slipped underneath the horizon, prompting the cultivators to halt the procession. Each one then lit a bonfire for those under their care, a meager measure taken in the hopes of frightening away any mutant beasts. Walking in the darkness was certain death. Third team from the rear, head out and start looking for food sources. Limit the search radius to 1 kilometer, Lu Yin said through his communicator. His personal identification number was 103. After glancing thoughtfully at the fresh carcass of the hound that he had just killed, he hoisted it up and unceremoniously tossed it to his group. "Eat." Several men moved forward from the group when they received his command. They soon set to work, exquisitely carving the beast apart so as to roast it, not even wincing once at the strips of human flesh that they had to work around. There was only enough meat for 20-odd people, however, so Lu Yin grabbed his weapon and headed out to find more. The squelches of his boot trudging through the mud didn't stop even once, but glowing green eyes lit up in the darkness to stare at him. These were mutant mice. Although they were unbearable to look at, they were at least edible. Lu Yin killed about a dozen of them before he obtained enough to feed his group, at which point he returned. Another piercing scream informed him that a fellow cultivator had died, but he had no desire to try to save them. Nobody knew what dangers lurked in the darkness, and venomous snakes, infectious mosquitoes, and even enormous rats that could chew through metal were common in this areas. Lu Yin returned to a mute group that was huddled behind the bonfire, as though the pitiful flames would protect them from the countless dangers around them. His gaze shifted towards the dazzling stars in the clear night sky that were no longer polluted by the light and smog of human industry. Of course, that clarity had come with the cost of the mutant beast's arrival. And mutant humans, too. Nobody knew just what had triggered it, nor how it had happened to the entire world in just one night. All sorts of creatures had mutated into deadly beasts, and many humans had similarly lost their minds and become walking zombies without a hint of rationality. Those that survived saw a marginal boost to their own strength. While that alone wasn't significant, they had also gained the ability to grow stronger by eating the energy cores of the newly emerged mutant creatures. These survivors had renamed themselves cultivators. The world then seemed to regress into ancient times, where the law of the jungle ruled supreme. Lu Yin had personally witnessed the explosions that had destroyed all of the modern weapons and munitions in his city. It was almost as though this new world order would not allow the existence of such advanced technology. A soft gust of wind then drew Lu Yin's attention to a blood-soaked newspaper fluttering under a stone, which he picked up to read. February 3, 2200. This day shall be recorded in the annals of history as the day the Chinese Air Force 5 landed on Neptune. The first member of the crew to set foot on the gas giant was Bai Qian. Lu Yin tossed the newspaper away when a little girl tottered up and carefully handed him a barbecued meat drumstick. He smiled at her as he said, "Thank you." Lu Yin contentedly swallowed the hot meat down as the little girl smiled and ran back to the group. The meat was difficult to push down even with the overpowering seasoning, but it was a good source of energy. He suddenly pounded his rod down onto the ground as the bonfire flickered, killing a toxic mantis that had tried to leap through the flames and attack the group. These insects could devastate a group if they succeeded. Their blades that shone among the flames were no weaker than his own weapon. Lu Yin only got 2 hours of rest over the course of the entire night, as he had to kill a dozen mutants that tried to rush through the flames and attack the group. However, the other groups didn't have someone like him protecting them. Another group consisting of a dozen cultivators and even more survivors were all massacred by a single mutant boar. The creature's tough hide was covered in bristling spikes that could be shot out at will, and every volley reaped multiple lives. Several stronger nearby cultivators had to join forces to subdue it lest it cause even more casualties. Still, the sun eventually rose and the group continued its southward march towards the city of Jinline. This city was the largest rallying point in the surrounding region, and many soldiers and cultivators called it their home. Amongst them was Zhou Shan the Executioner, one of the 7 sages. In the 6 months after the apocalypse, the human race had used what limited information it had to construct a rough ranking system for cultivators. Someone who had just swallowed their first energy cores were unclassified, and those who had gained the power to crush them were in the realm of man. Above that was the realm of earth. Cultivators at this level could destroy entire cities with ease, but there was still one realm above them. Those in the realm of sky could take to the skies at will. Perhaps it was due to their terrifying power in battle, or maybe it was due to their role as guardians, but they were known as sages. The 7 sages were the 7 individuals in China who had reached this realm. The overall group was now only 100 or so miles away from Jinline, a distance that would have been covered in mere hours only a few years ago. Now, however, that same distance would take several days to cross, and the once safe roads were also now plagued with wandering zombies that were attracted to the aura of life. The guards lining both sides of the procession remained endlessly vigilant, but the fear in their eyes was obvious. While the zombies weren't fast, and even though their monstrous strength could be countered, their blood contained a vile toxin that could seep through skin and infect the brains of any cultivator exposed to it. This toxin would eventually sap its victim of their free will and sentience, turning them into zombies as well. Lu Yin's gaze sharpened and he gripped his weapon tightly. It wasn't too difficult to fend zombies off since they always attacked in the same pattern. Unlike cultivators, they could not evolve and grow, otherwise, there would be no survivors in this world. The largest threat to the procession still came from mutant beasts. Just as Lu Yin was about to engage the zombies, however, they suddenly went still before turning around and leaving. An ominous premonition bubbled up as his heartbeat accelerated. Just moments later, his omen was fulfilled as the very earth trembled. A thick, dark green vine tore through the ground and lashed out at the head of the procession. Its broad leaves captured the various survivors and then crushed them like ripe fruit. Cries of despair rang out once again, and the blood of the victims dripped down, fertilizing the soil below. Let alone the commoners, even some of the cultivators turned tail and fled. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. This mutant vine had definitely reached the realm of earth. Even though their group had multiple cultivators at the realm of man, it would be difficult to take down this mutant vine. Even those who had stuck around did not have any intentions of trying to kill it. Instead, they skirted around the edges of the battle, waiting for the vine to eat its fill. By the time it retreated, wails of desperation and sorrow echoed through the battlefield once more. Even many cultivators would break down at such a gruesome sight. "Hold your ground. The executioner will be coming to our aid soon," said a husky voice through Lu Yin's communicator. The hopeful news lifted the spirits of those who had survived. To them, a cultivator in the realm of sky was like a god. So long as they appeared, all problems would be solved. Sage. Lu Yin scoffed at the rest of the group's reaction as he surreptitiously flexed his left arm. Even now, the entire left side of his body still pulsed with bone-piercing pain, an ever-constant reminder of that fateful night. The entire city had been abandoned, and all of the weaponry and firepower that had yet to be destroyed had been focused within the city itself. The screams from that night still rang vividly in his ear. That was the night he had caught sight of that lofty being with golden eyes. Lu Xiaoj, the Sage of Light. Lu Yin would never forget the man who had caused him unbearable pain, pain that he had vowed to return 10 times over. As always, the bonfires were lit just before dusk. Lu Yin was about to rest when he was alerted by a scream behind him, and upon further examination, there was some crying as well. His brows furrowed as he turned around to see a dozen odd cultivators surrounding several girls with ripped clothes. The girls were barely able to maintain the last shreds of their dignity as the men salaciously toyed with them. Unfortunately, this was not an uncommon sight. Humans, too, had reverted to a barbaric philosophy after the calamity. One had to pay a price for protection in this world of beasts. Lu Yin shut his eyes, his consciousness fading away. Not far away, a girl screamed as she was pushed to the ground. A cultivator towered over her. God damn it, I put my life on the line to protect y'all. So what if I want to have some fun with you? You should consider yourself lucky. A rising starlet slept with me just 2 days ago, but now, I'd refuse her even if she begged me. Get up. The girl's cheeks were flushed red with anger as she stared at her oppressor, but the surrounding cultivators just laughed raunchily. These people fit right into this kind of world where one could do as they pleased as long as they had the power. Whoosh. A quick gust of wind brought a new member to the crowd, his rod held against the man's neck as he indifferently stated, "Scram." The surroundings instantly fell quiet save for the soft sobbing of the girls. The threatened cultivator's expression soured and he gritted his teeth. This has nothing to do with you, Lu. They're under my command. You're too noisy, Lu Yin said emotionlessly as he slammed his weapon into the man's throat. Skin tore open as blood spilt forth, staining the metal rod a familiar color. If you're going to be that vicious, then sure. They're all yours now. I won't touch them. He then withdrew his weapon and calmly walked back to his previous spot, the silenced crowd watching with confusion. They had already grown used to such acts, and normally, nobody would have stepped forward to save these girls even if they were about to be killed. To them, Lu Yin was the strange one. The rest of the cultivators all shared a glance as they seethed with rage. However, none of them dared to make a move. They all knew that Lu Yin was more powerful than them. The girls ran over to say something, but when he closed his eyes with no intention to talk, they could only give him a look of gratitude. Not long after, a stunning young lady dressed in revealing clothing walked over with a smile. She stared at the girls until they lowered their heads in fear, and was only satisfied once they all backed off. She then sat down beside Lu Yin and gently blew into his ear. However, the response was a calloused hand wrapping itself around her throat. One more time and you're dead. Still so heartless, the woman spat out, forcing a smile onto her face even as her eyes dimmed. What do you want? Lu Yin asked coldly as he released his grip. Ack, don't you know you've already offended somebody? She asked with a glare, rubbing her throat pitifully. When he didn't reply, she continued explaining. Zhang Tong and his group are plotting against you. They have over 10 cultivators while you're alone. You can't deal with them. Be careful. Thanks, Lu Yin blandly replied. The woman groaned helplessly. You know, I have some backing myself. I can help you out of this. All you need to do is ask. Don't need it. Sigh. All right. Well, feel free to call me whenever you want. As for Zhang Tong, don't worry about it. I'll handle them for you. See you soon. She flashed him a smile before turning around, leaving a hint of fragrance in her wake. Lu Yin simply closed his eyes again, completely unaffected by the woman's arrival and departure. Barbarian's adventure in a fantasy world. Chapter 2. Camp of the Seven Sages. Congratulations, things have been handled. The beautiful woman wasn't gone for long. Later the same night, she was back with a smile on her face, only explaining herself after Lu Yin cast a look of doubt her way. I asked my older brother to help and he captured Zhang Tong. He's inviting you over to discuss what you'd like to do with the captives. Lu Yin's eyes lit up and he got to his feet. Let's go then. The woman laughed and headed out, leading him through the bonfires until they were about 300 meters away from another group not far from Lu Yin's original quarry. This section was no safer, but as Lu Yin arrived, he saw Zhang Tong and the other cultivators who'd tried to rape the girls kneeling on the ground. In front of the dozen of them was a tall, burly man with his hands clasped behind his back whom the woman spoke to in a sweet voice. Brother, Lu Yin is here. The man turned around and smiled. Are you Lu Yin? Lu Yin nodded. My name is Lu Sheng. I am one of the captains in this troop. I know who you are, Lu Yin responded bluntly to the man's arrogant tone. Lu Sheng arched his brows. He did not like the attitude Lu Yin had just shown. You want to deal with this group? They're all yours. Lu Yin looked him in the eye. Name your conditions. The corners of Lu Sheng's mouth twitched as he stared hard at Lu Yin. I'll get straight to the point, then. I've heard about your exploits and have been observing you. I don't believe you have absorbed any energy cores from the bodies of mutant beasts, but you are still so powerful. Can you tell me why? The beautiful woman eagerly looked on from the side, clearly awaiting Lu Yin's answer with great anticipation. Even Zhang Tong and his group of cultivators who were kneeling on the floor couldn't help but stare. However, what they got in response was a mocking smile. Is that why you lured me here? Lu Sheng smiled faintly and glanced at the beautiful woman, who took a few steps forward to arrive by Lu Yin's side. She spoke in a husky voice. Mr. Lu, won't you please tell us? Is there another method of cultivation? Telling us is like telling all of mankind. Humanity will forever be grateful. Me, especially. I told you, one more time and you're dead. Lu Yin spun around as she leaned against him, his weapon flashing by her throat. The woman clutched her neck in shock as blood poured down her fingers, dyeing her clothes red as she crumpled to the ground. She had completely ignored the prior warning because she believed he wouldn't be so bold as to kill her in front of her brother. After all, Lu Sheng was a captain, a powerful figure in the realm of man. Even said brother was stunned into silence by this act, not having expected it at all. You're all so annoying, watching me ever since your group formed. It ends tonight. Lu Yin brandished his rod, heading straight towards Lu Sheng and swinging towards his skull. You're courting death, Lu Sheng shouted in a rage, drawing out an intimidating sword from his waist to block Lu Yin's weapon. He expected to deflect the rod and even wound Lu Yin in one swipe, but reality betrayed those lofty ambitions. His sword was split in two from the impact, and the tip of the steel rod even left a deep wound in his right shoulder. Lu Sheng could not believe what had just happened. He was a powerful figure in the realm of man, more than capable of fighting a number of ordinary cultivators at the same time. He had never expected to lose so handily in combat. Lu Yin had chopped right into his target, but that wasn't enough to sat him. Lu Sheng barely dodged the next horizontal strike, slashing out with the broken sword, but the rod knocked the handle away with so much force that the impact created a small crack in the ground. What are you all looking at? Come on, let's kill him. Lu Sheng cried out, glaring at Zhang Tong and the rest. None of them dared to hesitate and they all immediately took up different kinds of weapons, but Lu Yin was prepared for their charge. He had an icy look in his eyes as he launched forward, his legs creating ripples in the ground that could be seen by the naked eye. His body rushed more than 10 meters ahead as the tip of his rod chopped down. In an instant, Zhang Tong and the rest glanced down to see blood dripping from their chests. A dozen corpses fell to the ground a moment later. Lu Yin's heart was already hard as steel by this point. They were at the worst time in history, a world that was completely lawless, but this was also the best time to take care of scum without consequences. How is this possible? No one in the realm of man can do that. You have to be someone in the realm of earth. Lu Sheng looked up at him with a vacant gaze, shivering as the sight of his icy gaze. He immediately knelt down on the ground. Lu Yin, no, Master Lu, please. Let me off, and I'll be your lackey. I can kill anyone you want, get you women. I'll do anything you ask. Lu Yin didn't respond, simply raising his head and gazing at the starry sky. A sinister glint flashed in Lu Sheng's eyes as he drew his blade and stabbed out, but the figure that was pierced slowly faded away. Lu Sheng's gaze blanked as he stared in disbelief. What on earth was this? This is known as the roving step, a type of battle skill that originates from the starry sky. Lu Yin responded to the unspoken question in his deadpan tone, an equally bored swing sending the steel rod crashing into Lu Sheng's skull. He just sighed and stowed his weapon away as the man went down, continuing to gaze at the sky and thought, I'm just a guest but here I am, stealing the show. He soon finished extracting the energy cores from the bodies of Lu Sheng and the rest, moving them towards a ring where they just disappeared as though they'd never existed before. This was a cosmic ring, a precious ornament capable of storing a myriad of items. It, too, had come from the starry sky. No one would bother with the disappearance of Zhang Tong and the rest, but Lu Sheng was different. He was a captain. His sudden disappearance would definitely draw the attention of the other captains, but he had hatched his scheme in secret to obtain Lu Yin's cultivation method. He'd already covered all his tracks, so one could even say it was his fault that no one came looking for Lu Yin. Afternoon the next day, this incident was thrown to the back of everyone's mind as tens of thousands of people looked into the sky. They had just received news that the executioner was about to arrive, so they were lying in wait. It didn't take long for a black figure to appear high in the sky, looking down on them all. Zhou Shan was more than 2 meters tall, with short hair and a muscular physique. He carried an enormous 3-meter-long axe that seemed capable of splitting mountains, cutting an imposing figure as he hovered over the awestruck cloud. So this was a man who could fly, a powerful figure in the realm of sky. He didn't utter a single word before raising his hands, sending an explosive gust down towards the people below. The dust blown up by the winds blinded thousands for a while, but the cultivators ignored teary eyes to stare at the powerful sage who was capable of amazing feats of destruction. Huge vines twirled out from the ground and lunged viciously towards Zhou Shan, but he just screamed out a roar that resounded in everyone's ears before raising his axe high into the sky. The wind gathered into translucent winds behind him. Storm slash! He shouted out loud, flipping and landing down on the ground while chopping at the vines. Huge cracks spread out across the earth as dust flew everywhere, gusts spreading throughout the surroundings. Fortunately, the captains of this group had been stationed up front and managed to cushion the crowd from the blow. Lu Yin kept a close eye on the events. Everyone had guessed that these vines were in the realm of earth, but he had felt that they were actually in the realm of sky. Zhou Shan needed to go all out to fend them off. A huge gust of wind blew past. And when the dust settled, everyone saw the executioner with his axe resting against the ground. The terrifying vines had been destroyed completely, and there was even a huge hole in the ground that was full of green liquid. As thousands burst into cheers, he picked up his axe and took to the sky once more. Let us head to Nanjing at once, it is much safer there. Thank you, executioner. Long live the executioner. Executioner. Thousands of voices screamed his title in exaltation. In these chaotic times, what everyone wished for was a hero. Just like the rest of the 7 sages, Zhou Shan fit that bill. Soon, Lu Yin gripped his steel rod tightly. He hadn't yet entered the realm of sky himself. Just like Lu Sheng had said, he didn't use energy cores to cultivate. He had to look for other ways to grow his strength, finding the true road of cultivation in the starry sky. The group advanced steadily under Zhou Shan's protection. There were definitely beings in this world that were much stronger than him, but the chance of actually encountering one of them was close to zero. A day later, the tens of thousands of people reached Nanjing. It was only then that many people started to put down their belongings and burst out in loud cries. Nanjing was completely locked down by huge walls, with rows of cultivators on each watching the thousands of lucky survivors streaming in. Some had sad looks in their eyes. This team had lost nearly a tenth of its total manpower since they'd started their rough journey. Lu Yin recalled how the city had looked when he visited in times of peace, a picturesque scene with ancient trees covering the footpaths. Now, its suburbs had been abandoned to the hordes of zombies and it had shrunk down greatly. If not for Zhou Shan paving the way, the people would have had to fight a bloody battle just to enter. The survivors were organized into groups while the cultivators were separated into another group. This group of cultivators consisted of approximately 500 individuals, and when compared to the total survivors, each one in charge of the protection of close to 100 commoners. Many people could start cultivating after eating an energy core, but unfortunately, zombies did not have any in their bodies and it was extremely difficult to kill the mutant beasts which did. Back in the camp, executioner Zhou Shan had set up a team to manage the cultivators. Every single one who gathered in Nanjing had to participate in its defense regardless of willingness, registering at the camp to have their battle abilities and health conditions tested. Lu Yin and the others were also brought to this camp. This camp was by no means small, occupying all of Nanjing. It was rumored that there were countless zombies and mutant beasts roaming around it when the camp had first been established, Zhou Shan had led the cultivators on a month-long expedition to occupy the former tourist city. With Nanjing at the center, the camp spread out in all four directions, allowing survivors to successfully reach the gathering point in Zhongshan, which was one of the biggest concentrations of survivors in China. There was a solemn silence amongst the newcomers in the camp, all of them looking enviously at the cultivators who were already in matching uniforms. They would join those ranks in the near future. It is an incredible feat that the executioner could build this camp to this extent in merely half a year, someone commented. Someone else echoed the sentiment. Many went into hiding when the apocalypse arrived, but the executioner immediately established this camp. It will be a dominant force in the future. Lu Yin walked among the cultivators and looked around at the soldiers who would pass by on occasion. These people were tough, true soldiers. Logically speaking, when the world was ending, there would be nobody charismatic enough to be able to form such a structure, and yet, the camp was still here. There was only one reason. The members of this organization were all true soldiers and Zhou Shan represented the country. The apocalypse did not destroy China. In fact, it stabilized the country. Zhou Shan was a member of the military and even one of the 7 sages. If not for both of those connections, he would never have been able to reach the realm of sky in merely half a year. It was yet to be determined if it was a blessing that the apocalypse had not brought about a collapse in the communication systems, but if that had happened, it would have been impossible even for nations to stabilize in such a short period of time. Chapter 3. Arrival. Zhongshan had been cleared out entirely, leaving the enormous plaza filled with numerous modern facilities that left the newcomer cultivators in awe. They saw soldiers walk by with uniform blades on their backs, a strange fusion of modern and ancient equipment. Regular guns had become useless as cultivation developed, and many national armories had been destroyed in the apocalypse. For someone to still be able to outfit all their soldiers with standardized equipment was a demonstration of their power and influence. Lu Yin and the other newcomers were taken to a huge square where they were encircled by the soldiers, both men and women alike. About 10 meters above them was a square of clear glass that separated another area from which quite a few people looked down on the soldiers and newcomers while giggling. I wonder if there are any useful ones this time. It'll be good if we could get someone of decent strength or even in the realm of man, someone grunted from among the overlookers. Don't get your hopes up. The realm of man isn't easy to reach. Besides, the executioner has already decided who the realm of man captains will be. Neither of us qualified, a beautiful woman next to the man replied irritatedly. It couldn't have been easy guarding tens of thousands of survivors to Nanjing, so I have pretty high expectations of this group. If you don't want them, I'd be happy to take them off your hands, a young man said with a smile. Stop dreaming. It all depends on how Feng Hong handles this. He's the instructor this time, so he's sure to get the best ones, the middle-aged man said. All the people in this upper area were captains at the camp. The camp held 80,000 cultivators, of whom only those that had reached the realm of earth could become captains. Each held almost absolute power in Nanjing, with status second only to the executioner himself. Sight of the executioner was a rare occasion to the millions of survivors in Nanjing, so to most, the captains were the ones in power. Apparently, the sage of Aqua's disciples are coming to Nanjing to battle one of us. Who wants to take on the challenge? The beautiful woman suddenly asked with a grin, bursting into laughter when everyone went silent. Rumors say that she declared the snow maidens invincible in the realm of earth. Don't you guys want to defend your reputations? Nobody said a word in response, and despite a giggle the woman covered her mouth and went quiet as well. Although the common person might think that the 7 sages stood equal, a few individuals knew that there were 3 high sages and 4 normal sages. The sage of Aqua with the blue camp atop her icy peak was a high sage, while Zhou Shan was only a regular sage ranked below her. Meanwhile in the plaza below, the cultivators were being checked individually. This was mostly due to the many new diseases that had sprung up since the apocalypse. The sickness that could be contracted from the zombies was particularly difficult to treat, so the camp had to ensure that all newly arrived cultivators did not carry any illness that could endanger the camp. It was soon Lu Yin's turn, and the nurse filled in his details while he turned in his blood sample. His eyes flickered and his body blurred briefly as he exerted strength in his legs, but the only change was a slight change in the color of the blood sample. For a moment it had seemed to possess a hint of purple, but that was soon gone and the blood went back to normal. Lu Yin, was it? This will just take a moment, so please wait for a bit, the nurse smiled gently at him. Lu Yin nodded, thanked the nurse, and walked to the other side to wait. It didn't take much time before the tests on all of the nearly 500 cultivators were completed without complications. Before much time passed, a middle-aged man in a dark military uniform arrived, exerting a wave of pressure that cracked the earth and left everyone awestruck. He's in the realm of Earth. A realm of Earth expert. Someone shouted, instilling fear and envy into the onlookers. The middle-aged man stopped about 10 meters away from the newcomers before speaking with a clear voice. My name is Feng Hong and I'm a captain in this camp. I'll say this just once. Whoever is unwilling to enter the camp, leave now. Hundreds of cultivators looked at each other and people started to leave the formation one after the other. While the camp was powerful, those who enjoyed its shelter had to fulfill certain obligations as well. Many of these cultivators had never been soldiers, and it was quite normal for them to not want that kind of life. Lu Yin himself was in this group. Almost 200 people were unwilling to enter the camp, which was nearly half of the newcomers. Feng Hong looked at the departing group and said, joining us not only ensures your protection, but we will also look after your loved ones. They will be taken to a location near Zhongshan. Also, you will be provided with energy crystals to train and it is even possible to receive a battle technique from the executioner. What's a battle technique? Someone asked curiously. Feng Hong replied coldly, a technique that can allow you to exert twice your maximum power. The executioner's battle technique is the Storm Slash. I'm sure you've seen it before, I don't need to explain that few can block it. This visibly excited all of the cultivators. They had indeed seen the Storm Slash before. With just one attack, the executioner had taken out all of the mutant vines and cracked the earth. Even the winds had shifted in the face of his overwhelming might. Can we learn that? Someone asked longingly. So long as they are acknowledged by the executioner, anyone can, Feng Hong answered coldly, drawing back many of the cultivators who had started to leave. In the end, Lu Yin was among less than 50 people who were still determined to leave. Take them away, the captain waved them off, sending some soldiers to escort the group out of Zhongshan. Looking back, Lu Yin knew that the camp would erupt into chaos soon enough. Outside Zhongshan were a substantial number of survivors and even cultivators. As Lu Yin and the others came out, the crowd immediately pounced on them. Would you like to buy some real estate? If you do, you can come to me. I guarantee I'll give you a good deal. Want to travel, sir? Don't look at me like that. There's way too many zombies and monsters outside Zhongshan, and without a guide, you're sure to get surrounded in no time. Would you like a weapon, sir? I've got sharp blades, tough spears, and a lot of other options. If you want to buy explosives or firearms, I've got those too. How about buying some self-defense options? Who has a map? Lu Yin asked into the crowd, garnering the attention of a beady-eyed cultivator who approached immediately and glared at the surrounding hawkers to shoo them away. He then carefully took a map out of his pockets. Here, only 10 crystals. 10. For a map. Lu Yin's brows shot up. You do know that a single energy crystal is enough for a normal person to become a cultivator. The man whispered in response, brother, this isn't just any map. It marks out the places where powerful monsters and zombies gather outside Zhongshan. You wouldn't want to be surrounded the moment you leave, right? This is your life. Are you telling me your own life isn't worth 10 crystals? Lu Yin laughed. 3 is the best you'll get. I don't have any more. Deal. Take the map, my new friend. Lu Yin suspected he'd been conned since the cultivator had agreed way too easily, but he didn't really mind. He took 3 grain-sized crystals and passed them to the cultivator who grabbed them excitedly. He then leaned in closer and whispered, here's a little extra for you since you were so easy to do business with. No need to thank me. With that, the man pushed a round pill into Lu Yin's palm and left. Lu Yin recognized it immediately, but that actually prompted a confused look. This was an aphrodisiac, and a powerful one at that. While numerous plant mutations had rendered many older medicines obsolete, Products from the new vegetation were more effective than anything humans had before. Lu Yin had seen people who'd used these pills before, and knew just how effective they were, but they were also in high demand and extremely expensive. No matter what, a single one was certainly worth more than the 3 energy crystals he'd paid for this map. Who was this guy? Lu Yin ignored his own question and tossed the aphrodisiac before looking around and heading towards the outer city. Studying the map along the way, he headed towards a barren hilly region to the south. I hope I'll find some clues there. At the highest point in Zhongshan, a gathering mostly comprised of captains sat in a meeting room. On the left of the empty seat at the head of the table was a man in a military uniform with a scar on his face. On the right sat a lovely young woman with glasses. The captains spent a long time waiting before Zhou Shan walked into the room and casually sat at the head of the table. His gaze swept over everyone in the room before resting on the young woman with glasses. How's the plan proceeding? The girl adjusted her glasses. The initial plan to expand Nanjing's base will take at least 2 months, and we could lose up to 2 or 3,000 people in battle. If you want to expand Nanjing to its peacetime borders, we'll likely see 3 times those casualties. Zhou Shan frowned. We need to expand the base. The northern expansion has been going well, and in a few months we'll link to the capital city. At that point, the whole country will be reconnected and reclaiming our country's land will be easy. Showing weakness here will be a joke. Executioner, we just received word that the Tianju monk has entered the realm of sky, the man with a scarred face reported. The room broke out in discussions at the news. The whole of China only had 7 realm of sky cultivators, showing the difficulty in reaching that level. For the Tianju monk to reach that realm was a huge surprise. Zhou Shan's gaze cooled. Ku Sen. Investigate him. It's impossible for anyone to reach the realm of sky within a year. Got it. Anything else? The scar-faced man had finished and a cultivator stood to speak up, but suddenly froze as he stared outside the window. Everyone followed suit and made similar dazed faces. Zhou Shan spun around to look, his eyes narrowing as he peered outside. Dozens of meteors streaked across the sky, leaving fiery trails in their wakes. One of them flew in the direction of Nanjing before landing to the south of the gathering point, shaking the earth. These meteors were more dazzling than fireworks, drawing the attention of countless survivors. Lu Yin had watched the scene with the meteors as well, and from a vantage point much closer than any of the other observers. Having followed his new map to the hills south of Zhongshan, he wasn't far from the landing zone when violent shockwaves blew away the clouds. He watched as the earth cracked and debris flew through the air, having to kick away a piece of metal that shot toward him before looking further south. After a brief moment of contemplation, he dashed in the direction of the crash. Back within Nanjing, the executioner soared into the sky. He was just about to charge south before he was stopped by a report. Sir, a horde of zombies is charging at the walls. Zhou Shan turned to the east, finding a black mass of zombies heading towards Zhongshan. The city itself had been sealed off in a quick response, but quite a few survivors were left outside, crying out in despair. He grabbed his axe and flew outside the city, striking the ground and destroying a number of zombies with his attack. Open the gates and let the survivors in. I'll defend the city. To the south, smoke billowed into the sky from the site of the meteor crash. The crater spread 1,000 meters with a white ball at the center only 2 meters or so in diameter. Equally white smoke was wafting off it, filling the distorted air all around. Lu Yin approached the crater and hid in an abandoned factory nearby, observing the white ball through a crack in a wooden board. Although he had expected an event like this, he was still caught off guard when it actually occurred. A spacecraft, this is way earlier than I expected. Chapter 4. Formcast Model. The door of the spacecraft opened with a dull thud, a hand stretching out from within before pausing. A short-haired young man eventually walked out. Oof, I'm exhausted. I know this is supposed to be a trial, but why do they have to choose such a remote planet and make us fly out on our own? The youth stepped out and stretched to get used to his white light armor and combat boots, grabbing a dagger from the spacecraft before putting on what looked like a wristwatch and tapping it once. His gaze quickly hardened as the device emitted a beep, and he turned towards Lu Yin's hiding spot at once. Who's there? Lu Yin immediately ran 10 meters away from the factory, just in time to avoid an energy slash that split the entire building in two. The young man flew into the sky and stared down. Are you a native of this planet? Realm of Sky. Lu Yin was surprised. I'm speaking to you, can't you hear me? The youth asked with annoyance, casually sweeping his dagger across the air once more. Lu Yin watched as the aftermath formed a deep crater in the ground, raising clouds of dust. You're an alien? He eventually asked. The young man smirked and descended to the ground, glancing at his watch before turning back in shock. Only combat level 8. You shouldn't be able to dodge my attacks at that. Wait, you specialize in body training. Lu Yin was confused. You should be an alien. The young man frowned. That is technically true, but we'd prefer you natives call us masters. Masters. Lu Yin frowned. The young man looked down at him and said, the Great Yu Empire has been observing your planet for a long time. We have control of it, so we're clearly your masters. Now, do you focus purely on body training? Did you become a seeker yet, or maybe even a sentinel? I don't understand what you're saying. Lu Yin's answer prompted the youth to narrow his gaze. He pondered for a moment before realizing that the natives of the planet couldn't know the different realms of cultivation, his expression turning cold as he glared at Lu Yin. Attack me. I want to see what you're capable of. Lu Yin clenched his fists. Are you sure? The young man scoffed. Do you know who I am? I'm Vesta. The likes of you can't possibly hurt me. Even if you could somehow hide your combat level and were a sentinel, you still wouldn't be able to compete with me. You get to see just how wide the gap is between us. I'll attack. Then, Lu Yin pulled out his metal rod, rushing forward as Vesta arrogantly crooked a finger. The youth dodged his swing with ease, even placing his hands in his pockets. A planet's natural evolution really does produce a group of brutes. Your attack was swift and decisive and you went for the killing blow immediately. Well, this is fine too. It really is the only way we can make soldiers out of you people. Lu Yin attacked constantly, his rod releasing thick energy blasts that cracked the ground apart, but Vesta continued to defend with ease. Hands still in his pockets, he even blocked hits with his feet alone as he commented, actual combat level is 302, not bad. It isn't easy to become a seeker in physical body alone, even some sentinels in my academy struggle to get that far. You're worthy of a chance to follow me. Become my slave, and I'll bring you away to a different sky. A different sky? Lu Yin gasped, his rod still stuck against Vesta's foot. Of course. I'm an elite student from the first military school of the Great Yu Empire, qualified and brave enough to apply for trial by planetary evolution. Once I finish my mission, I will join a higher class. Following me will be the best thing to happen in your life. Of course, that depends on whether there's anyone more qualified than you on this planet. You better pray that isn't the case. Ha! The youth kicked the rod away. Lu Yin's expression chilled in the face of Vesta's arrogance, his right palm starting to vibrate as the air rippled around his hand. The alien youth didn't pay any attention at first, but once it caught his eye he was stunned. Shockwave palm. How do you? Lu Yin smashed his palm into Vesta's chest, shockwaves exploding from the impact as the youth's white armor fell apart. Vesta spat out a mouthful of blood as he was thrown back, but managed to twist his body in the air and draw his knife in an attempted counter. Palm still buzzing, Lu Yin simply charged in. You're no native. Vesta growled, attempting to stab forward in the face of Lu Yin's continued palm attack, but Lu Yin's entire body disappeared moments before impact and left him striking an afterimage. Movement skills. The youth spat out another mouthful, a ring melting apart to form armor that covered his entire body. Bang! Lu Yin's palm struck him in the same spot as before, a faint crack ringing out in response. Although the armor had barely managed to cover him in time, it still wasn't enough. His heart was completely shattered, and his body collapsed into a hole next to the spaceship that was now stained with his blood. Lu Yin fell nearly to his knees, panting and grimacing in pain. The blood vessels in his right hand had ruptured from forcing use of the shockwave palm. If not for the chance to kill Vesta instantly, he wouldn't have risked disabling his arm for this attack. Fortunately, he'd managed to wait the talkative youth out long enough to succeed. Still, 2 uses of the shockwave palm and the roving step on top drew everything from his body, leaving him trembling from exhaustion. It took great will to even shuffle over to Vesta's corpse and grab the armor that had returned to ring form. This was a common piece of defensive equipment used by students, and although Vesta's was quite mediocre, it could still protect from an attack in the realm of sky. Besides the ring armor, the device on Vesta's wrist could detect combat level and also held all of Vesta's information, including his location. Lu Yin removed the gadget, disabled its tracking mechanism, and stored it in his cosmic ring before looking at the corpse itself, his gaze landing on the middle finger. He cut the thing off and grabbed a crystal from within. It's really here. Lu Yin was elated as he picked up the crystal. This was the entire reason for his attack on Vesta and why he hadn't used regular energy crystals to cultivate. This was a formcast model, a crystal that condensed from the energy of a true powerhouse that could stimulate one's biology and sunder their limits. It would also allow them to cultivate by absorbing energy from the universe, which was the most effective training method there was. Consuming energy crystals was much inferior and had many drawbacks, not the least of which were the effort to both gather the crystals and break through one's own limits. While the energy from the crystals found in the bodies of mutated beasts was also a form of condensed star force, the crystals had too many impurities and would cause more harm than good when ingested. People who trained with energy crystals were sometimes called rangers, but many simply called them war slaves. Lu Yin did indeed come from the skies beyond, but to keep his identity legal he hadn't trained with a formcast model before arriving at Earth. Every formcast user in the universe was required to register themselves in the Great Yu Empire, but the Empire's Youth Council had decreed one exception. Anything obtained during a planetary evolution trial was one's own property. This was an inviolable rule. This guy was only a sentinel, which means this formcast model has been used twice. There's only one chance left. TCH, I'll have to keep looking, Lu Yin mumbled as he tossed Vesta into the spacecraft, turning to leave. However, a dark silhouette suddenly cast a shadow upon him, warning him of a sudden attack. He turned his body sideways and blocked the attack with an explosive kick, giving himself a chance to back away. The attacker, who was in the realm of Earth, also backed up before raising her head, revealing a delicate face. Why did you attack me? Lu Yin asked icily. Even though he hadn't felt any killing intent from the woman, a sneak attack was just that. The girl studied the spaceship before turning to focus on him. I saw you throw the alien's corpse into the spaceship. Why did you kill that alien? Who are you? Do you know something? Why would I tell you? Lu Yin sneered. Because I'll make you, the woman answered, pulling out a dagger and leaping towards him. The weapon emitted waves of cold as it cut through the air. Lu Yin tried to dodge, but her dagger constantly tore through the air and struck towards his vitals. He eventually found the right moment and grabbed her wrist with one hand, using the other to strike her stomach, but she raised her eyebrows and dropped her weapon to block his palm. The temperature plummeted as their hands met. Battle technique. Lu Yin turned solemn. His palm had started to freeze. You cannot match me. Answer me now, the woman commanded as the temperature dropped further. Chapter 5. Cultivation. Lu Yin grew serious in the face of this unknown assailant. He hadn't even started to recover from his previous battle, so it was impossible to use shockwave palm to break free of the chilling grip. As the frost continued to spread and burn down his options, he quickly forced his legs to move and pushed the woman along using roving step. The sudden shift immediately left her vomiting uncontrollably, to the point that she nearly fell unconscious. Taking the opportunity to tear off her sleeve, he watched as a few leaves drifted to the ground and froze it. So you had to rely on something external. I knew you couldn't be that good, he mocked her. What did you just do? The woman gritted her teeth. Was that a battle technique? Lu Yin remained silent, considering whether to kill her, but all thoughts of that were thrown away as a gust filled the hilly area. The executioner flying over made it impossible for him to make a move, but curiously enough, the woman didn't actually seem happy to see the man. Was she not from the camp? The air billowed out from Zhou Shan as he descended majestically, his eyes sweeping across Lu Yin and the woman before settling on the white spacecraft. Can someone give me an explanation? Lu Yin's mind raced as he considered his answer. I was exploring the area when this spacecraft crashed down and a person stepped out from within. He tried to kill me, but he might have been injured from the impact, so I managed to take him out. Zhou Shan stared at Lu Yin before shifting his gaze to the girl, seemingly losing all sense of urgency as he smiled. It's been a long time, Snow Maiden. The woman bowed. Zhao Yu pays her respects to the executioner. This revelation shocked Lu Yin. He had heard of the Snow Maidens before. They were the Sage of Aqua's disciples from the Blue Camp in the Chengbai Mountains. Why was one here at Nanjing? We haven't met since the apocalypse. I never expected so much to change, Zhou Shan sighed. Zhao Yu gathered herself and bowed. The Sage of Aqua sends her congratulations for gaining control of the Su district. Zhou Shan smiled bitterly. What is there to congratulate? I know how powerful the three high sages are. I can't compare to your master in any way. You alone are already stronger than all of my captains. Zhao Yu smiled. That's too much to say when I was just defeated by one of yours. He's quite strong. Him. Zhou Shan pointed at Lu Yin with astonishment. I don't even know him. Isn't he one of the troop leaders under you? Zhao Yu asked with similar surprise, prompting a curious gaze from the executioner. He couldn't see the strength needed to defeat a Snow Maiden in the youth at all. Lu Yin stared down while considering the implications of this conversation. These two clearly knew each other from before the apocalypse, but they hadn't met since then. This meant Zhou Shan had seen the power of the three high sages even before disaster had struck. It was publicly known that the seven sages had started cultivating even before the apocalypse, and Lu Yin had also heard that exploring Neptune had been quite fruitful. A corpse and a warblade had been retrieved on that trip. China had eventually succumbed to global pressure and shared some items to prevent a world war, which showed just how valuable they were. He clenched a fist as he pondered. The fact that the seven sages were able to cultivate before the apocalypse showed that they had relied on an object from that corpse. This validated his search. The seven sages couldn't possibly have known about formcast models, so if that corpse was from a supreme being, it possibly still retained the model within the body. This had been his goal all along. It wasn't long before the soldiers from the camp arrived, led by a pretty woman with glasses. Zhou Shan ordered his troops to seal off the perimeter, allowing a group of researchers to head towards the spacecraft as he turned to Lu Yin. Little brother, what can you tell me about the alien? With Zhao Yu's gaze falling on him as well, Lu Yin took a moment to think over his answer. I heard him talk a bit. He mentioned some academic assessment, a trial by planetary evolution. Zhou Shan's eyes flashed. That was all. Lu Yin nodded. He really didn't say much. He called us natives, said he wanted to enslave me. Natives. Zhou Shan sneered and looked at the sky. It looks like Earth won't remain calm much longer. There were dozens of spaceships that just landed, which means dozens of aliens. I didn't imagine we'd make contact so soon. Lu Yin stared at the man who didn't seem all that surprised, but they were soon interrupted by the woman who came up to report, Executioner, we plan to take the spacecraft back to Nanjing for analysis. Unfortunately, the alien's heart was destroyed. The traces make it seem like he should have had a weapon on hand, but we weren't able to find anything. Lu Yin had ruined the surroundings after he had searched Vesta's corpse, so they were simply unable to restore the scene to its original state. Zhou Shan looked over. Little brother, could you hand over anything that you took from the alien's body to help us with research? Rest assured, we will return it once our investigation is complete. This is his weapon. I didn't take anything else. Lu Yin pulled out the dagger after some muttering, opening his shirt up to show Zhou Shan and the rest. It was impossible for anyone here to recognize the cosmic ring. The people of this planet wouldn't even think of a ring that acted as a storage space. Zhou Shan took the knife and waved it around, a careless slash splitting the earth open in front of him. Sharp. This material truly isn't from Earth, he said as he handed the weapon to the spectacled woman, stern gaze focusing on Lu Yin to confirm that nothing else had been concealed. He stepped forward and patted Lu Yin's shoulder, complimenting him. You've killed an alien and defeated a snow maiden, little brother, that's quite good. What's your name? Would you be interested in joining my camp as a captain? Lu Yin agreed without any hesitation, but in reality, he had no other choice. The executioner seemed gentle for now, but he knew that he was currently under suspicion. Almost anyone would believe that he'd hidden some of the alien's possessions away, so he couldn't be allowed to leave. It was better to just agree and avoid conflict. He didn't currently have the power to handle someone in the realm of sky in a fair fight. Vesta had only died to carelessness, something Zhou Shan would certainly avoid. Besides, there were numerous other cultivators around as well. Zhao Yu alone would be difficult to deal with. Said girl suddenly frowned from the side, turning to Zhou Shan. I can't contact the Sage of Aqua. All forms of communication were cut off when they descended. Zhou Shan nodded solemnly. The pulse from their descent took out communication lines. I'll send out emergency repair teams shortly. Rest assured that the blue camp is fine for now. The Sage of Aqua is powerful. Zhao Yu nodded in silent agreement. One couldn't unlock all the secrets of the alien spacecraft overnight, but fortunately it was small enough to be transported back into Zhongshan with ease. Zhou Shan stood at the highest point of Nanjing, looking towards the south. The woman with glasses approached him. Executioner, we finished searching the area surrounding the crater. There was nothing hidden. That man isn't lying. Zhou Shan sighed. I understand. You may leave. There is another thing I must report. We found evidence of a battle being covered up around the pit. This Lu Yin may not be as simple as he seems. He may be very strong. Zhou Shan smiled. I know. He defeated a snow maiden even with injuries to his right palm and leg. His true strength is at the peak of the realm of Earth. He also doesn't seem to have absorbed energy crystals a single time in his life. He's really interesting. Should we continue to monitor him? No need. We should be as united as possible right now. Besides, so what if he hid his strength? He's only in the realm of Earth. He can't reach the next level. Understood. Meanwhile, Lu Yin was in his new captain's residence near the middle of the camp. While none of the 80,000 soldiers truly served this so-called 14th captain, he himself was only concerned with using the formcast model to become a true cultivator. Sitting down cross-legged on his bed, he took 10 minutes to slow his breathing before opening his eyes and calmly retrieving the formcast model from his cosmic ring. He grew excited as he bit his index finger hard enough to draw blood, pressing the crystal into the wound. The formcast model slowly vanished underneath his skin, and it wasn't long before the excruciating pain he was waiting for arrived. His gaze defocused and he clenched his teeth as he endured the mind-numbing pain, waves of agony crashing into his body and tearing everything apart. This was the feeling of his cells developing and reorganizing, his very organs and blood vessels writhing as they warped. It felt like a burning hand was squeezing his entire being. After what seemed like forever, Lu Yin finally felt a huge surge in his power. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes brightening once more as his body expelled numerous impurities. The energy emitted from the event incinerated this filth, distorting the air around him. Chapter 6. The Dye and the Cosmic Art. A long time passed before Lu Yin coughed out some more blood, a shockwave rippling out from his body that overturned his tent. The blast destroyed equipment and knocked over trees for hundreds of meters in all directions, prompting the arrival of two captains who were looking for the source of the disturbance. Are you Lu Yin, the new captain? Feng Hong's voice rang out, a questioning gaze directed at the ruins of Lu Yin's tent. Lu Yin quickly emerged from the ruins, walking with unsteady steps. He was pale as a ghost, but still noticed the woman next to Feng Hong as well as the soldiers who were looking on cautiously. Yes, I'm Lu Yin. Sorry for the disturbance. Why are you so weak? The two captains stared at him in shock. Lu Yin smiled bitterly. I saw the executioner display his battle technique a while ago, and it made me want to try mine as well. Unfortunately, I failed and hurt myself. Feng Hong immediately relaxed and chuckled. Brother Lu, try to hold back a bit. Battle techniques are difficult to train and take patience. We captains have the occasional fortune to train with the executioner, so I suggest you wait for him. Lu Yin nodded with understanding. I see. Thanks for your advice, Brother Feng. Feng Hong waved him off. You're most welcome. After all, we're all brothers in this camp and will need to rely on each other to face future disasters. I'll have someone clear out another tent for you, so get some rest. Right, do you need a doctor? Oh no, these are just superficial wounds. I'm just tired. Good, then we'll head out. Rest well, Brother Lu. Feng Hong nodded before sending a glance towards the woman. Nodding herself in acknowledgement, she took one more look at Lu Yin and left. Lu Yin followed some soldiers to a nearby tent where one soldier saluted him. I will take my leave now, Commander Lu. Just give us a shout if there's anything else you need. He nodded and entered his tent as the soldiers left, eyes sparkling with excitement and anticipation. The formcast model had succeeded, and even given him an enormous surprise. A six-sided die appeared in his palm as he raised his hand, sparkling with starry energy. It looked completely ordinary, but he knew it to be an innate gift, something few cultivators got with their first use of a formcast model. Innate gifts were odd things that many scholars considered the biggest mystery of existence. No one knew where they came from, and the popular belief that they were connected to one's origin were speculation at best. However, Lu Yin couldn't care less about said origin, he was only concerned with the properties of the innate gift itself. Before coming to Earth, Lu Yin had heard of many types of powerful innate gifts. Every cultivator with a unique one was a prodigy who would be recruited eagerly all over the universe. Perhaps the most well-known detail about them was the fact that any cultivator with one would gain instant membership amongst the Universe Youth Council. While that was an immense advantage on its own, however, the actual utility of the innate gift was important as well. Lu Yin eagerly poked the die that was gently floating in the air, starting it on a quick spin before it came to a halt. The pips on 5 sides blanked out, leaving only one visible. He'd rolled a 5. He instantly knew that this side's use was pilfer, its details randomly appearing in his mind. The use of this side could steal any item that a random individual had in their cosmic ring, and before he could react, a beam of light formed a passage in midair. A crystal fragment fell out from within, after which the die blurred and vanished with the passage. This is something that was Santo, no, recovered for me. Lu Yin stared at the crystal fragment blankly, eventually picking up and studying it. Realizing its use, he grabbed Vesta's watch from his cosmic ring and inserted the fragment within. A single ray of light drew 2 words in front of him: cosmic art. The dazzling images that followed left him dazed. Silhouettes, images of the universe, galaxies, and palm prints all flashed across his vision for half an hour before the crystal exploded, rousing him from his trance. After a few more minutes of shock, he finally acknowledged that he had received something truly powerful. The cosmic art was a technique that could allow one to absorb energy from the stars. It imitated the movements of the celestial bodies, and theoretically, each addition to the imitation would increase the speed of energy absorption. Even though the cosmic art technique that he had received was incomplete, it could still allow him to imitate up to 8 orbiting celestial bodies. In other words, if he succeeded in learning this technique, his energy absorption would increase 8-fold. Furthermore, the technique also included a battle skill called the cosmic palm that could allow the user to release star energy from their palm, which was a very powerful ability. This was astonishing. Lu Yin stored his personal gadget and excitedly started to review the cosmic art. This was something that he had never heard of before, but he had no doubts as to how powerful it was. With such power, it probably even originated from the Innerverse. He was ecstatic at his unbelievable luck. For the die to land on pilfer was already rare, but he had no right to expect anything more than a random pair of underwear. A powerful technique like the cosmic art was enough to secure his future. It was a pity it was only the introductory level of the technique. He shook his head and let out a laugh. He was overthinking things. This type of technique would be a powerhouse's treasure. The safeguards would be extremely complicated, and there was no way that someone would put its entirety in a single crystal fragment. What he had received was clearly just a partial recording of the complete technique that must have been taken from some poor fool. Trying to retrieve the entire technique would be a monumental task. Lu Yin dismissed this train of thought and left his tent. Leaning against a tree, he gazed up at the sky and pondered about how he would start training this new technique. If he had to imitate celestial orbits, he had to first enter the sky. In the depths of the universe was a massive mountain surrounded by a dozen stars, its flaming summit making it look like a cigarette butt that pulsed bright and dark every few seconds. The smoke shooting out from this peak seemed like a ribbon sent to wrap around the world. "You what?" A voice roared within the massive mountain. "You stupid brat, how could you have lost the technique? Did you give it to some wench? Get over here." In the darkness, a young man could be seen fleeing in a pitiful state as he covered his buttocks and cried, "Master, please. This is an unjust accusation, it wasn't me. It just disappeared. Do you take your master as a fool? Who could steal something from right under my eyes? Come out at once. Master, please. Damn it. Lu Yin had little success with the cosmic art over the course of the night. As the sun started to rise, he eventually made his way back towards Zhongshan with tired steps. At the highest point of Zhongshan, many people were seated inside a meeting room. Once again the seat for the chief was left empty, but as Lu Yin entered the room he became the center of everyone's attention. Some people looked at him with curiosity, other looks were friendly, while still more were suspicious. Brother Lu, come sit over here, Feng Hong called out, an invitation that Lu Yin accepted. He ended up sitting between Feng Hong and the beautiful woman he'd seen the night before, and across the other side was the woman with glasses whom he'd met out south. Although most of the people here were captains, some researchers were also present. When Zhou Shan finally entered the meeting room, he scanned through it and paused on Lu Yin with a hint of suspicion before taking his seat and smiling. Let me introduce you all to Lu Yin, our newest captain. Lu Yin rose from his seat, nodded his head in greetings to the other individuals in the room before sitting back down. The meeting quickly moved on to actual issues the camp was facing, forcing him to listen for more than half an hour before it finally ended. Even then he wasn't dismissed. Being asked by Zhou Shan to stay behind for a private conversation, it felt like you had never trained with energy crystals yesterday. I wanted to ask you about that, but it looks like you were just completely spent. Lu Yin nodded solemnly. That alien was very powerful. Even severely wounded, fighting him forced me to use all my energy. I could tell. He was someone in the realm of sky, so killing him was clearly no easy feat. Zhou Shan laughed. Lu Yin laughed but otherwise stayed quiet, so the sage spoke up once more. I heard you wanted to leave the camp yesterday, why is that? I like my freedom, and the atmosphere of the military camp was too stifling for me, Lu Yin answered. Zhou Shan nodded his head and sighed. Many people feel the same way, but when faced with annihilation, we humans should unite together. That requires some sacrifices. I understand, executioner. Lu Yin replied. Zhou Shan grunted in acknowledgement. How are your injuries? Nothing serious, I'll heal quickly. We cultivators are lucky in this regard. We have amazing healing abilities compared to regular humans. True, we are also more at risk, but once you have experienced power, you never want to be weak again. This drives you to work even harder to grow stronger. Many people have died in pursuit of strength. I don't know when I myself might meet that fate. Chapter 7. Within the city. Lu Yin knew what Zhou Shan said was true. The 7 sages of China were worth less than ants in the greater universe, the so-called realm of sky outmatched even by many students across the myriad stars. Out there, this stage was known as the Sentinel, only the second stage of training. The stages of cultivation in the universe started with the Seeker, cultivators who were first starting to look for their paths like helpless chicks. Next came the Sentinel, when they explored the power of the human body. Third was Melder, when one would grow in strength and even reach the limits of the human body. The fourth stage was known as Limitator, when one broke through the limits of the human body. Beyond this was the Explorer, those who could travel through space all on their own. Someone at this stage could collapse the mountains of Earth with a single wave of their hands. However, even such powerhouses could not create formcast models. There was no end to the path of cultivation, but people who had trained with energy crystals like Zhou Shan would find it nearly impossible to even become an explorer. The stronger one became, the more they would realize their own insignificance. Ah, why am I getting all philosophical with you? Let's go watch the fun. Zhao Yu should be sparring with one of the captains right now. Zhou Shan smiled and led Lu Yin out of the meeting room. They arrived atop the plaza without further conversation, watching through the glass pane as another captain lost a bout to Zhao Yu. The girl's clothes weren't even ruffled yet, but she was still swift and decisive in her attacks. Lu Yin had experienced all this before, but now it was Feng Hong's turn to receive her assault. Zhou Shan looked down and shook his head. There are strong and weak cultivators at every stage, and the gap can be huge. Zhao Yu can easily defeat my captains even without using any battle techniques. Her technique relies on some sort of plant, Lu Yin commented as he stared down. Zhou Shan laughed. Of course. It doesn't matter if it's the snow maidens or the sage of Aqua herself, they all rely on external objects to use the frost palm. The human body is unable to conjure something like that on its own. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed at the foolishness of that statement, but he kept quiet. Powerful battle techniques could even alter nature, it was just that people with such skills didn't exist on Earth. His own cosmic art could even imitate the movements of celestial bodies, though no one would believe him even if he told them. Feng Hong's defeat came quickly, followed by 2 more captains consecutively being trounced as well. Eventually, no one else was willing to challenge the Snow Maiden, who matched gazes with everyone around her. I was told all the captains here are capable, why aren't any of you willing to spar with me? Feng Hong and the other captains grimaced, but Zhou Shan just laughed from above the plaza. The Sage of Aqua's 3 disciples are said to be invincible within the realm of Earth. That certainly seems to ring true. Zhao Yu looked up and stared straight at Lu Yin, crooking her finger at him. Feng Hong and the others were surprised, but Lu Yin raised a brow at this open provocation. Zhou Shan grinned, it seems like she's not convinced that you defeated her yesterday. Yesterday didn't have a clear winner, Lu Yin answered. Zhou Shan agreed, then just go and face her, we can't embarrass ourselves. Lu Yin nodded and left the room. The hundreds of cultivators in the plaza were discussing the previous matches, most of them amazed by Zhao Yu's might. Having defeated multiple captains in a row, she had quickly become a goddess to these soldiers. However, said goddess breathed in deeply as she saw Lu Yin approaching, taking the upcoming fight seriously. She still couldn't accept what had happened the day before. Despite initially holding the upper hand, she had been defeated by a single battle technique. She wanted to observe that skill once more. Feng Hong went out of his way to approach Lu Yin and warn him, be careful, brother Lu, this woman can use a battle skill called the Frost Palm that is very strong. Lu Yin nodded and headed towards Zhao Yu, please begin. Zhao Yu leapt up with her hand raised, using a dagger in the exact same manner she had next to the landing site. A blast of cold sliced through the air, but this time Lu Yin evaded it with ease. He was completely different from the day before. Yesterday he had merely been a human with a strong body, but today he was a cultivator who had already entered the realm of Earth. Despite the carefree evasion, Feng Hong was anxious since Zhao Yu's attacks kept speeding up. There was a freezing energy coming off the dagger that quickly dropped the temperature in the vicinity, the very earth fracturing as she spun around like a whirlwind. This Snow Maiden's pressure blasted the walls and even suppressed the breathing of some cultivators around. However, Lu Yin merely observed for a while before he lifted an arm and rushed forward, leaving a dazed Zhao Yu behind. She looked at her empty hands. Her dagger was now with him. Feng Hong was shocked at first, but that quickly changed to excitement. That was great, Brother Lu. Brother Lu, you did great. Yes. Others echoed from the crowd as well. Lu Yin turned to face Zhao Yu and casually tossed the dagger back. Do you want to go again? Zhao Yu stared at Lu Yin. How did you do that? Lu Yin shrugged. I'm quick and have a good eye. Bullshit, everyone thought instantly. Fine. Zhao Yu shook her head. You win. You disarmed me before I could so much as touch you. There shouldn't be anyone in the realm of Earth who can match you. Lu Yin laughed. These people were too isolated. Seekers of their caliber who had no proper battle skills were innumerable amongst the dregs of the various academies in the universe. That being said, she was still right in a way. There was no seeker on Earth who could defeat him. Zhao Yu sheathed her dagger despondently before realizing that there was something different about Lu Yin from the day before. Was your energy used up yesterday? Lu Yin couldn't be bothered to explain and just turned around to leave, planning to head out and see if the thing he was searching for could be found in the mountains or some other hidden area. The Snow Maiden desperately wanted to ask him about his battle technique, but she couldn't bring herself to call out to him. Such arts were personal, and she had no right to ask. Feng Hong and the other captains were still dazed by Lu Yin's strength. They hadn't ever doubted that he'd killed an alien, but all of them had conveniently forgotten that even injured, that was someone in the realm of sky. While Lu Yin was officially made a captain yesterday, it was only now that the camp gave him any power. He had been assigned 100 soldiers to serve under him. As he walked out from Zhongshan, he summoned a young cultivator with a wave of his hand. Do you have any orders, sir? The youth asked. Do you know where the old gun store in Nanjing is? It's to the northwest. Lu Yin took out a map. Mark it out for me. The soldier took out a pen and circled a place on the map. Lu Yin took a look. You can go back. I'll explore a bit on my own. The soldier hesitated. Sir, the gun store was destroyed even before the apocalypse. The few remaining ballistics were moved out as well. If you need one, you can ask the executioner. I understand. You can go back now. Lu Yin nodded, but still walked towards the northwest alone. It was true that the soldiers answered to him, but they were also here to keep an eye on him. Fortunately, he didn't plan to hide his movements anyway. What he was searching for was extremely well hidden, and it was pointless to search at random. With the strength he had shown, there would be minimal opposition to his advance. In fact, someone could even step forth to help him find what he wanted. His assumption was indeed correct. A short while after he left, Zhou Shan paused at a report he'd received, the weapon storehouse. Why is he heading there? The woman adjusted her glasses. It has already been destroyed, and he knows this. We know he's looking for something, but we don't know what. Leave him be. We don't have any secrets here, Zhou Shan smiled. Zhongshan was the center of Nanjing, and the closer an area was to the mountain, the safer it was. The urban regions had thus descended into chaos, with people living on the streets and even in the river as they cowered in fear from the zombies outside. However, there were some people who actually celebrated this anarchy. They were no longer restrained by societal morals and gave in to every whim that crossed their minds. Lu Yin had seen many cultivators bullying the survivors, and there was no way for the soldiers to keep everyone in line. Uncertainty was the state of the entire world, but he understood that this was the steep price to be paid whenever a planet was to evolve. The gloomy sky soon gave way to heavy rain, a mix of blood and water flowing in the streets. Lu Yin quickly found a restaurant that seemed clean and took a seat. Even the entrance was crowded here, but not with people wanting to get in. On the few occasions where leftovers were brought out to be thrown into the trash, the people would riot for the food. Stay away from me. The waiter, clearly a cultivator himself, scolded the crowd as he tossed them a pail of trash, and wash the bucket before you return it, or I'm giving this to someone else next time. Chapter 8. Fire Crystals. Watching the commotion outside, Lu Yin ordered a random 2 dishes before looking around. This restaurant clearly had someone important backing it. There were soldiers constantly patrolling the street, and the crowd outside didn't dare cause a problem. A restaurant that could function in these chaotic times was definitely out of the ordinary. Here is your food, please enjoy. The waiter dropped the dishes off quickly. Lu Yin took a single bite and frowned. Although the food was much better than the mutant rats or dogs he had needed to eat, it still wasn't very good. Swallowing hard, he started to go through it slowly while studying his map. Shortly after, a group of about a dozen people entered the restaurant. The restaurant owner's face lit up as soon as he saw them. Young Master Kong, please come in. The rain is terrible outside. Just let us know whatever you want and we'll send it over right away. The young man at the head of the group just nodded in acknowledgement and sat at a nearby table, only briefly glancing at Lu Yin before looking away and tapping the table. Bring him over. A person was thrown to the ground with a thud, overturning several seats. The man looked up at young Master Kong while trembling. I'm sorry, young Master Kong, I didn't know that it belonged to you. If I had known, I never would have dared to take it. I'm so sorry, please let me off this time. The boy sneered. Let you off? If I did that, I would lose the respect of my followers. Did you know that I was planning to give that item to my uncle? Now that you've lost it, I'll give you 2 choices, pay me 30 crystals or die. Young Master Kong, no. The person wallowed in despair. I really didn't know it was yours. Please forgive me, let me go, and I'll be your slave for the rest of my life. However, the youth just slammed his fist on the table and pulled out a gun, aiming it at the man's head. If you don't have the crystals, you're dead. The person shrank back, wailing in horror, but then suddenly noticed Lu Yin sitting nearby. He pointed over. It's him. He's the one I gave it to. Everyone turned around to look at Lu Yin, who simply set his glass down and stayed silent. He had noticed as soon as the group entered that the man being beaten was the same sketchy cultivator who had sold him the map he was studying. He had paid 3 crystals for the map, and the man had given him a pill as well. He'd found it strange at the time since the pill was very expensive, but now he realized that the pill had been stolen from this young Master Kong. The youth stared at Lu Yin for a while before kicking the sketchy cultivator. "How dare you lie to me, Shu-san? Just pointing at a random person won't save your life." Shu-san protested desperately, "But it's true, it really is him. He bought a map from me. Look, I sold him the map on the table, there's my mark on the bottom right corner." Young Master Kong and his followers looked over to check, as did Lu Yin. There was indeed a mark on the corner, and the group immediately dragged Shu-san over. "Brother, if you took something that wasn't yours, shouldn't you give it back now?" "Get lost," Lu Yin dismissed them. The youth glowered, and one of the cultivators behind him raged, "What a tough attitude. Do you even know who's behind young Master Kong? You have some guts." Someone else tried to capture Lu Yin just as the man finished, but Lu Yin just took a chopstick and threw it forward. The thin bamboo pierced through the arms of several cultivators before it finally struck the wall, crumbling in the process. Blood sprayed out of the victims even as the wall itself collapsed, howls of pain ringing throughout the area. The youth paled and retreated anxiously with the rest of his posse, while the other cultivators and restaurant owner fled in shock. Young Master Kong pointed his gun at Lu Yin. "My uncle is a captain. Don't hurt us and just return it to me, and everything can be worked out." "I threw it away," Lu Yin answered. Young Master Kong obviously didn't believe him. "I'll tell you again, hand that thing over, or else you'll know true despair. You can't afford to anger a powerhouse in the realm of Earth." Lu Yin was puzzled. If your uncle is a realm of Earth expert, why does he need that pill? "How dare you insult my uncle? You must have a death wish. Lao Wu, contact my uncle now." Young Master Kang's voice spluttered as his face twitched. He wasn't stupid either, and knew that the gun wouldn't be able to stop Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at Shu-san's half-dead body on the floor. He had believed that the arrogant young man wanted the pill, but realized that he was actually looking for something else and that Shu-san had pushed the blame for this onto him. Shu-san noticed and immediately avoided his gaze, but he just smiled. He didn't mind taking the fall, but was now curious about what item could have roused the interest of a captain. He knew that Earth's evolution was giving rise to many exotic items, which was why so many students from academies across the universe had come here to train. There was a possibility that this captain had found something special. A short while later, a middle-aged man approached the restaurant and waved the soldiers away before peering in. The youth raised his gun up high and called out excitedly, "Uncle, over here." Lu Yin looked over only to recognize the man as Kong Daifeng, one of the captains who had been defeated by Zhao Yu. The man nodded towards his nephew. "Did you find it?" "I did, but this guy took it away." The youth replied angrily. Kong Daifeng looked over with similar anger, but that expression quickly changed at the sight of Lu Yin. The image of Zhao Yu's defeat was still etched in his mind, and he'd even felt envious of the new captain who'd defeated a snow maiden with ease. He walked over with a smile. "Brother Lu." Lu Yin smiled back. "What a coincidence, Brother Kong. Are you here for a meal?" Kong Daifeng answered. "This restaurant is owned by my brother, so we come here for our gatherings quite often. I must apologize for what happened today. I hope Brother Lu won't hold it against my nephew. He's young and doesn't know better." Everyone was flabbergasted by what they were seeing. What did this mean? Had they confronted some powerhouse? Lu Yin grinned. "Everything's fine, it was nothing serious." Kong Daifeng immediately glared at the youth. "Get over here and apologize to Brother Lu." The nephew wasn't stupid, and didn't stop to question things at all as he smiled and bowed in respect. "Forgive me, Captain Lu, I didn't recognize you. I hope you won't blame me." "I said it's fine." Lu Yin waved it off, chatting with Kong Daifeng for a while before the man left with the youths in tow. It wasn't appropriate to say too much to a new acquaintance, but before the man left, Lu Yin asked for Shu-san to be left behind. In the meanwhile, the owner of the restaurant personally served Lu Yin and offered him many of the best dishes as a courtesy. Outside the restaurant, young Master Kong finally showed his confusion. "Uncle, why were you so polite to that person? Isn't he another captain like you?" Kong Daifeng spoke softly, remember to be polite if you meet him again. He's extremely powerful. Aren't you also in the realm of Earth, uncle? How strong could he be? Shush. This guy is several times stronger than me. Outside of the executioner himself, no one in Nanjing can defeat him. Even Li Hongliang might not be a match. Young Master Kang's mouth fell open, and he looked back at the restaurant in a daze before fleeing. Only now did he realize how close he'd come to dying. Back in the restaurant, Lu Yin looked at Shu San coldly, you're quite brave to push the blame onto me. Shu San felt like all of his luck had left him. First he had stolen something only to discover that it belonged to young Master Kong, and then he had tried to blame someone else who had turned out to be even more powerful. Even a captain had been deferential. Shu San was convinced that God had abandoned him and that he was about to die. What was the thing that Kong Daifeng wanted? Lu Yin asked casually. A red crystal, but I already sold it. Shu San collapsed on the ground and replied bitterly. Oh, was it quite hot? How did you know? Shu San was shocked. Lu Yin immediately recognized the item as a fire crystal. Many battle techniques required such crystals since they could produce flames upon contact. In concept their usage was similar to Zhao Yu's frost palm. They were external items that could help execute a battle technique. Fire crystals were very popular in the universe, and were naturally very rare in a place like Earth. It was little wonder that Kong Daifeng desired one so much. Do you know where it came from? He asked. Shu San shook his head. Ha ha ha. So you pushed the blame on me and made me a random enemy out of nowhere, yet there's no compensation. Shu San paled. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Lu Yin played with his chopstick. Do you want to bet that this chopstick can pierce your throat? I feel like testing it out. Shu San shook with fear, remembering the earlier scene of another chopstick piercing the arms of multiple cultivators. He started banging his forehead against the floor, his repeated kowtows forming a small lump on his forehead and causing Lu Yin to shake his head. He had gone so far that the man now saw a shadow of his death. Sipping on his water, he prepared to leave. Chapter 9. Farsight. Shu San nervously watched Lu Yin stand up, fully certain of the upcoming pain. Life had lost its value since the apocalypse, and murder was quite common. With the confidence that he was about to be killed to soothe Lu Yin's anger, he hurriedly shouted, Sir, I can help you with many things. Please, don't kill me. Lu Yin simply ignored him and headed towards the exit, but as he passed by, the man's fear of death reached a new peak. Shu San had seen many instances of the strong killing the weak, so he braced himself and spoke up, Sir, I have a special ability that can help you. This finally caught Lu Yin's attention. He stopped immediately, turning around in astonishment. What did you say? A special ability. White with fear, the man stuttered out, My eyes, I can see very far, much farther than normal people. That's how I'm so successful with theft. Surprised, Lu Yin squatted beside him and stared at his eyes, noticing the slight angle between his pupils. His excitement grew as he recognized the innate gift, something incredibly rare amongst the countless cultivators of the universe. He frowned. Farsight, does anyone else know about this? Shu San shook his head. I didn't want others to think I was a freak. You're the first person to know. Lu Yin's mouth curved up in a smile. Your name? Shu San. All right then, Shu San, follow me from today. You're now a member of the Nanjing camp. A trembling Shu San nodded. Are you going to dissect me? Lu Yin laughed. I won't, but others might want to. You must never reveal your special ability, do you understand? This explanation confused Shu San a little, but he still nodded in the end. Cultivators who had not left their home planet could not understand the value of innate gifts. The Universe Youth Council allowed any cultivator with an innate gift to join them directly, an unreachable dream for countless others. To Lu Yin, Shu San was a priceless treasure that would be of immense use in the future. In fact, he could even be sold off for immense wealth. Shu San turned out to be surprisingly well connected in Nanjing. Lu Yin covered all of the district in only a few days' time, including the destroyed weapons cache, but he couldn't find a single hint of what he was searching for. He eventually brought Shu San over to a mountain, which the thief promptly explained, Boss, this is Jinline's second highest peak. It's only shorter than Zhongshan. Lu Yin grunted. Ignore Zhongshan. Look for other areas with a higher concentration of troops. Shu San nodded and stared out. His eyes seemed to lose focus but brightened at the same time. A while later, he smiled bitterly. Boss, I can see a long way, but I can't clearly see all of Nanjing. Keep practicing, you'll get better. Shu San remained silent and widened his eyes before suddenly shouting and pointing to the eastern sky. Boss, is that someone flying? Lu Yin looked up with surprise, finding that someone was indeed heading toward the camp. It was also obvious from first glance that this wasn't someone from Earth, but instead someone from the stars like Vesta. He was soon hovering right over Nanjing, emitting a great roar of violent energy that engulfed it in a tempestuous storm. Alarms rang out immediately, and many who looked up at the sky froze up in fear of the powerful figure in the air. Realm of Sky. Back in Zhongshan, Feng Hong and the other captains rushed out with deathly pale faces. Many of them stared at the sky in bewilderment. Flight was something only those in the realm of sky were capable of. When had another such expert appeared in China? Orton looked down on Zhongshan's assembly grounds from his vantage point, radiating an arrogance reminiscent of Vesta. Perhaps everyone who came from the wider universe treated the people of Earth like savages. A voice echoed out from Zhongshan. Respected warrior in the realm of sky, why are you attacking Nanjing's assembly grounds? This is an area protected by the executioner sage. Despite being a question, the voice was noticeably deferential. Orton sneered. Executioner sage. Is this a title you natives gave yourself? Calling yourself a sage, how bold. Tell him to get out here. The millions gathered in Nanjing's assembly grounds were frightened at this clearly hostile warrior, while Feng Hong and his peers who knew what was going on had ugly expressions on their faces. They understood that this was another alien, just like the one who had been killed a few days ago. This did not bode well for Nanjing. I'm the executioner. Zhou Shan's roar rang out from below, his massive 3-meter-long axe glinting as he flew into the sky to confront the enemy. Many people cheered at the appearance of their guardian angel. Orton scoffed. You should know of my origins. I'll give you one chance to serve me. Perhaps I'll bring you out of this planet and into the skies in the future. Zhou Shan squinted his eyes. Forgive me, I don't know what origin you speak of. Orton sneered. A mere native dares to act clever with me. Vesta landed in this area, so don't tell me you haven't seen him. I'll have you know that I'm ranked much higher at the academy than he is, and you will have a much brighter future with me. Zhou Shan tightened his grip on his axe. We're earthlings, not natives. Looks like words won't work. I'll have to show you the difference between natives and their masters. A smirk appeared on Orton's face, and immediately after he finished speaking a sword flashed towards Zhou Shan. Even the executioner himself was caught off guard by the surprise attack, but fortunately his reflexes and battle experience allowed him to deflect the longsword with his axe. He spun around with pause, using the momentum for an admirable upward slash that took the enemy by surprise. Orton's longsword rushed to block the heavy weapon, but even then his body was thrown back 100 meters and his hands were numbed by the clash. The collision sent shockwaves towards the assembly grounds that sundered the earth, creating crevices hundreds of meters long that sent countless people fleeing for their lives. Such power! Orton was amazed, but he sneered as Zhou Shan swung the axe towards him and again. This time he blocked it with ease, prompting the executioner to pause and squint before attacking again. Trying to push me away from this place. No matter, I'll show you your place. Orton deflected the massive axe once more with his sword, but was still pushed back by the force. He used the momentum to fly away from the assembly grounds near Nanjing. Although the exchange had only taken an instant, countless people were amazed at the sight of people who could fight in midair. These men seemed to hold the strength of gods, every blow capable of splitting the earth. Only Feng Hong and the other captains were worried for Zhou Shan. The fact that the aliens willingly landed on Earth showed that they were prepared. From the top of a different peak, Shu San was shaken by the sight of the battle. This was the first time he had seen a fight between two warriors in the realm of sky, and it greatly broadened his horizons. Beside him, Lu Yin frowned as he looked outside the camp towards the source of the vague rumblings. He was aware that any student who came to Earth had their own ring armor that could defend against attacks from realm of sky warriors. This should leave Orton invincible and confident in his own victory, but as one of the 7 sages of China, Zhou Shan could not be underestimated either. The corpse found on Neptune had clearly possessed the ability to travel through space unaided. Its origin was a mystery. While he himself looked down upon all the cultivators of Earth, the sages were the one exception. These people had started cultivating even before the apocalypse, and the executioner hadn't even been all that impressed by Vesta's corpse and spacecraft a few days ago. There was a real chance that this newcomer would lose the fight. Another earth-shaking rumble soon arose from outside the city, the shockwaves blowing apart the clouds. But then everything went still, and Zhou Shan's figure flew over on the horizon. Although he was slightly pale, there were no visible injuries as he hefted his axe, causing the onlookers from Nanjing to break out in cheers. "Wait here," Lu Yin ordered Xu San before rushing out towards the site of the battle. When he arrived at the spot that was 20-some kilometers away from the city, all he saw was a burning building and a ruined landscape. The scars on the earth extended as far as the eye could see, and the zombies and mutant beasts once here had fled or been crushed to nothing. Lu Yin squatted down and touched one of the scars, feeling a trace of cold energy still present. This was a remnant of Zhou Shan's battle technique, which meant that the attack on the mutant vine all those days ago wasn't the actual limit of Zhou Shan's ability. He quickly came across some white fragments that were glittering nearby, and picking them up he was startled at what he saw. These were fragments of ring armor. Orton had been beaten so viciously that even his armor had shattered. Unfortunately, the alien was still alive. Were it otherwise, Zhou Shan would have taken the corpse back to Nanjing in triumph. Still, he had to re-evaluate the strength of the 7 sages. He didn't know how strong the 3 high sages were, but Zhou Shan alone already had power near the peak of the Sentinel realm. He heard distant movements that indicated the approach of the other captains, but without any desire to meet them, he immediately left the scene. Chapter 10. Cosmic Palm. That night, Lu Yin sent Xu San away and headed to the tree outside his tent, looking up at the stars glittering in the clear skies above. He had been trying the cosmic art for the past few days, but it wasn't easy to imitate the orbits of the heavens. He had been clueless all this while, but having seen the aftermath of Zhou Shan's battle, he stared at the night sky with renewed inspiration. The background noise slowly disappeared as time passed, and the other stars started disappearing as well, leaving only the glow of the moon. This glow illuminated the night sky and himself, quickly becoming the only thing he could see. He raised his hand subconsciously, forming ripples in the air. Energy started pouring into his body as a lone celestial body shone within his palm. The moon was circling his hand, giving him the power of the cosmic palm. Lu Yin's body shook and he looked at the star on his palm in awe. He could feel terrifying strength within. Although he had nothing to compare to directly, he felt like this was a move that would surprise even Zhou Shan. Waving it away, he felt the energy surging into his body that he'd absorbed from the world around him. This energy wasn't limited by energy crystals, and could be absorbed anytime, anywhere. From the information he had on Vesta, his absorption rate was even double of that youth. Such was the power of the cosmic art. As Lu Yin waved the star away from his palm, Zhou Shan opened his eyes from within his own residence. He had felt a faint hint of terror for a moment, but it went away quickly. Was it a hallucination? The battle today was too exhausting. The next day, Lu Yin received a notification that the executioner had personally assigned him to the northern front lines. This was the battlefield that was trying to connect Nanjing to the capital, a dream Zhou Shan had entertained for a long time. He wanted his territory to connect to the capital and then the other 6 sages, allowing them to reclaim all of China together. It was a good idea, but unfortunately extremely difficult. Even the smallest push required months, and they hadn't even been able to complete a tenth of the journey before the aliens' arrival had broken communication lines. The front lines were the most important thing to Zhou Shan, something he had always focused on. The very fact that half of his 14 captains were pressing forward here showed his determination to reach the capital. Alongside 10,000 soldiers, the 3 captains heading forward were Lu Yin, Kong Daifeng, and Luo Yi. Luo Yi was the beautiful captain Lu Yin had seen beside Feng Hong multiple times. She had always been curious about him. Supporting the front lines. We're just repairing roads, Luo Yi started grumbling barely a day into their journey, albeit justifiably given that the troops had been moving the entire time. Groups of soldiers were always pausing to repair vehicles and flatten the roads, slowing their progress significantly. Sitting in an armored vehicle of his own, Lu Yin rested his eyes, only looking up at the sky from time to time. He was wondering whether he could imitate the movements of the glaring sun. Once he succeeded, his absorption rate would double. He already felt close to becoming a sentinel, but it wasn't easy to imitate the movements of the sun. Maybe start from the earth. He wondered. It wasn't a must to look at the skies. He could find videos of the galaxy from peaceful times and begin there. He had to consider all the various momentums in the universe to imitate the heavens. It was a near impossible task, but he would keep trying. They soon crossed a city that was still lit aflame, the roaming zombies occasionally attacking the soldiers who blasted them with their guns. Don't be wasteful, we have a limited amount of ammo, Kong Daifeng scolded the soldiers, dropping the frequency of the shootings. Within Lu Yin's armored vehicle, Shu San laughed, ballistics become more useless as time passes from the apocalypse. If we don't use our weapons now, then when should we? Our guns will be nothing more than scrap metal after a while. Looking out the window, Lu Yin frowned at the sight of more zombies gathering. Tell everyone to speed up. We shouldn't waste our time being surrounded by the zombies in the city. Yes, boss, Shu San answered and left the armored vehicle, after which the army quickly sped up. As the captain who defeated Zhao Yu, Lu Yin now had one of the highest positions amongst the captains, and neither Kong Daifeng nor Luo Yi dared to disagree with him. Along the way, Lu Yin acquired a newfound admiration for Zhao Yu. Not everyone had the courage to travel across the zombie and mutant-infested countryside alone. The troops soon came to a stop at a broken road, forced to repair it if they wanted to move forward. Lu Yin closed his eyes and started twirling his finger in the air, imitating the movement of the stars, but he heard Kong Daifeng shouting outside as he started killing zombies. Opening an eye for a glance, he returned to his task. He truly is a captain, even the zombies are afraid of him, Shu San commented from the side. However, Lu Yin was not impressed. Ask him to come back and continue the journey. There are too many zombies to kill around here. Shu San nodded and was about to leave the vehicle, but he soon turned back. Boss, Kong Daifeng followed the zombies into that abandoned building. Lu Yin finally lifted his head and looked over, heading out of the vehicle a while later with a solemn expression. What's wrong, boss? Shu San asked. Lu Yin narrowed his eyes. There's no sound. Huh, you're right. They should be fighting in the building. Brother Lu, where's Kong Daifeng? Luo Yi came over and asked. Stay here, I'll go and take a look, Lu Yin answered, pulling out his metal rod and walking towards the building. Vesta's dagger was still in Nanjing, where he presumed it would be for a long time. He had also declined the sword Zhou Shan had offered him, so he was continuing to use his metal rod for now. Surrounded in flames, the abandoned building looked creepy even in the day. Lu Yin walked in slowly and examined the place, but despite finding Kong Daifeng's knife very quickly, he couldn't find the man himself. He walked further in and took out Vesta's watch from his cosmic ring, checking for signs of combat level around. There was soon an arrow pointing right behind him, with the number 900 written underneath. Lu Yin immediately slanted his body, dodging a white thread that broke into the closest wall. He looked over and saw an enormous mutant spider with 6 terrifying red eyes, a piece of blood-stained cloth at the corner of its mouth. He sighed in response. He was too late. Kong Daifeng had been eaten. At combat level 900, this mutant spider was equivalent to someone at the peak of the realm of Earth. As someone who had only recently gotten to this realm, Kong Daifeng simply wasn't its match. Lu Yin gripped his metal rod tightly and rushed out, sweeping it in the spider's direction. The beast lifted its legs up to try and avoid his attack, but his body suddenly flickered and appeared right behind it. The rod smashed down and broke its body in half, throwing an undigested Kong Daifeng out of its abdomen. Disgusted by the scene, he frowned and left quickly. Returning to the troops, he had Shu San announce that no one was to leave on their own. Anyone who disobeyed would be exiled. Kong Daifeng, is he dead? Luo Yi asked in shock. You can go take a look in the building. His body wasn't digested yet, Lu Yin replied. Luo Yi's face paled. A captain had died just like that, without a single sound. If not for Lu Yin, Kong Daifeng would have been digested by the spider. This was the cruelty of the apocalypse. Even the powerful couldn't protect themselves. Shu San turned pale as well, immediately boarding the armored vehicle and deciding that he would never leave Lu Yin's side. Luo Yi soon did the same. Lu Yin was speechless at this fear. It'll be fine if you don't leave the troops. Luo Yi rolled her eyes at him. That's easy to say. Who knows what other mutant creatures there are, it's safer staying with you. Without a retort, he decided to just ignore her and ordered the troops to continue moving forward. Boss, should we report to Nanjing? The death of a captain isn't a trivial matter, Shu San asked. There's no rush. We'll decide once we reach the front lines. Well, if we reach the front lines. These words left Shu San even paler. Even as Luo Yi subconsciously edged closer to Lu Yin, he started consoling himself. No, we should be able to reach the front lines safely. We will. Lu Yin looked out of the window. The troops were moving ahead slowly. But thinking about it, Kong Daifeng was really so unlucky. He might have lived if he didn't chase the zombies to that building, Shu San mumbled to himself. He felt safer when he was talking. These words made Lu Yin's head shoot up. What did you say? Shu San went stiff and answered, I said Kong Daifeng was really so unlucky. He might have lived if he didn't chase the zombies to that building.